Hello.
Welcome to Hangman Entertainment. This is such an honor to get to chat with you today.
What's happening, man? How are you?
Yeah, absolutely great. Um,
Cool.
you have had an amazing career. Being at one point the frontman of Anthrax and the frontman of Armored Saint, and now Category 7. What's been a highlight of your career to date?
I always say that the highlight, believe it or not, is to just have the longevity, the length of time to be able to do it, in all
Yeah,
honesty. Um, I think when we first began in the early days of Armored Saint, when we were all just kids and we were like, we want to be as big as, the Who and the Stones and Zeppelin
yeah,
and I don't know. We said all, that was our big endeavor to be a band that was really big and to have the, like I said, the longevity of those bands, which is funny because I just saw the Stones the other night and they're still going, which is insane. Uh,
yeah.
uh, so I guess we still have a long way to go. But I think that's to me sometimes is the most impressive thing to be able to just keep going, because fame and success and monetary substance and things like that, you can't really you really can't control those things when you're dealing with the music industry
Yeah.
or anything in the art industry. It's just those are things that are they're kind of out of your control. So the thing you can't control is the quality of what you do and to keep being persistent. And I think that's to me the most important thing.
How did you get into being a singer? Was this something you always wanted to do, or was it a period in your life where you thought, I know I could give it a go?
Yeah, well, the my next door neighbor, who was a really good friend of mine, he actually told me one day, I'm moving. And I was like, oh no, because we were kids, really good friends in elementary school. And he goes,
Yeah,
I'm moving right next door to you. And I was like, what? And he ended up moving literally right next door to me. But he was actually a person that was very ambitious, and adventurous in learning about music. And he kind of turned me on to a lot of bands, Queen, Thin Lizzy, you name it. Me and Joey and Gonzo, his name was David Avila, was a good friend of ours, and he actually was the guy who started it because he formed a band for a talent show in a junior high school that we were going to, and he's like, I want to be in a band and I want to play and I want you to be the singer, and I said, why me? And he said, well, you just kind of feel like you have the lead singer kind of feeling about you. And I was like, okay. So then, I mean, we love music, but I never really had thought about performing at that point. We were all about, what, 12, 13, maybe somewhere in that neighborhood. And so I gave it a shot, and we played, and we were probably really terrible, and I'm sure my voice was terrible, but the crowd loved it, and so it was kind of our first brush with some kind of fame and popularity, and being on stage and being a performer. So that kind of got the ball rolling, and took a while to develop my voice. Of course, I feel like my voice almost didn't really completely develop till like my mid to late 20s, believe it or not. So,
I have one question I always ask in these interviews. Can you remember your very first vinyl you bought?
vinyl,
Yeah, your
yeah,
very
I think
first
it,
one.
I think it was Zeppelin 2, actually. I think a couple older brothers who turned me on to a lot of music, in particular Zeppelin and Sabbath. I was writing that on my folder, and when I was like 9 years old, when I was in elementary school, and um, yeah, I was fortunate enough to they played a lot of Beatles records for me and stuff. So even though those, okay, so I'm 60 now, and I was born in 63. So by the time I was 9, it was 1972. So a lot of records have already come out, obviously, when I
Yeah.
really started getting into music. But I went back to buy those records, and um, Yeah, I think that was the first one I bought, and then maybe Kiss Alive after that. And who knows? I wish I still had some of that old vinyl, but I didn't take good care of it.
Yeah, it's I sold all my collection and I regret it. Regret it every single day.
Yeah,
Um Going on to Category 7, the debut album, self-titled Category 7.
yeah.
Uh it's due out later in the month. How did you go about, because it, Category 7 is like a super group, really, and it's got all um top musicians, yourself. How did you all meet, and how did you get go about the writing and the recording process of the album?
Well, I think it was something that was conceived by conversations that Mike and Phil and Jason had. They were all together, I think, at a rehearsal studio doing different things, and they ended up
Yeah,
hanging out, talking, and then they had this idea, and so they kind of kept pushing the idea of doing it. And then Mike and Phil started writing some songs together. And they had, the next step was to find other members, including, myself eventually and Jack. Obviously you need a singer. And they thought of me. So Phil and I had worked together, or have worked together, should I say, in Metal Allegiance, which is kind of like an all-star rock thing that plays periodically. They've made a couple records, and we've done a little bit of touring, but not too much. We're actually going to do another show in New York in September, actually New Jersey. But we worked together through that, and that's how I kind of got to know Phil. I didn't know him before, even though we both from California. He's from Northern California. I'm from Southern California, but yeah, the idea was like, would you be interested in doing this? Would you be interested in making some music? And I said, well, I don't know. I got to hear it and let me know what it sounds like, and then we'll go from there. And um, I did, and the music was really, really powerful and rocking. And I said, oh, this is great stuff. Let me see if I can work on it and what I could bring to the table.
yeah,
And so I wrote some songs, and the next thing we know, it was like, wow, this is great. This is really cool. This sounds awesome. Let's write some more. And then we did. And again, the next thing we know, after about, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months, we had like enough songs for a record. So the next step was, let's make a record. Why not? So it was all real kind of simple in the way it happened. And not it was like some big master plan. It just kind of
yeah,
happened really naturally and in a simple way, like I said. And the record kind of speaks for itself. It's very powerful, really heavy, and sounds modern, but yet it has this old school vibe about it at the same time. And the musicians are fairly undeniable. Everybody's very talented and gifted in what they do, and
yeah,
you can have a bunch of guys who are really talented, but can you mesh, and can you write songs, and can you have all these great riffs, but can they all work in a song that is actually hooky? And
yeah.
those are all the challenges, I think. And I think we did that. That's the part of it that a lot of people, I think, are impressed with, is that it's a lot of talented players, but still some great tunes.
Yeah, it's an amazing album. I listened to it this morning, and it's fantastic.
Thank you.
It
Who's your dog?
pardon?
Who's your doggy right there?
This is Ralph. This is
What's up,
yeah.
Ralph?
He's
He's cool.
is destroying the download dog.
He
So
wants it.
Andy
That's
Coppin, you're
great.
gonna sue me probably.
That rules. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's a top rocking dog.
He's cool.
Uh, you're really busy with both Armored Saint and Category 7 now. What you did mention that you've done a couple of shows. What plans have you got going forward for the rest of 2024 to do with Category 7 with touring?
Well, that's funny you say that because we've been talking about stuff and nothing is concrete yet. The record comes out on the 26th of this month, so it's still not even out. We put out our
Yeah,
third video, the song Mousetrap. So we put out three videos so far, In Stitches and the song Exhausted, and then Mousetrap, like I said, just came out like maybe a week and a half ago. So these are kind of getting the buzz going of the band, and another video will come out next month. And obviously people would, I'm sure, want to hear us play live, and we want to play
yeah,
live. It's just a matter of kind of making sure everybody's schedule is allowing that. Phil was in Europe and he's going back out on the road with Kerry King
yeah,
in the US doing some dates with Macedon and Lamb of God. And I'm going to Europe next week actually to do a little under a month tour with Saint and play some
yeah,
festival, some dates in Britain. And it's just making everybody's schedule kind of work, which is
yeah,
probably creating a lot of hair loss for our manager right now. But we all knew that going in, that everybody
yeah,
had a lot of stuff going on. So, but I'm not worried about it. I think it'll happen, and in the meantime, we'll just kind of keep it growing, and that's all we can do. Everybody knew this from the get-go, and
yeah.
um, I think there's a buzz on the band, so I'm sure we'll be performing live eventually here, not too long from now.
Finally, for Mr. John Bush, are we going to be seeing, apart from the dates coming up with Armored Saint, uh, are we going to be seeing you in either as a soloist, Armored Saint, Category 7? Are we going to be seeing you on the festival circuit, especially in the UK in 2025?
In 2025, I think that's a good bet. I think it'd be very safe to say that we'll play some festivals of Category 7 in 25. It'd be cool to do, Bloodstock, which
Yeah,
is a great festival in the UK. They still do Download, right? Is that a
yeah,
festival
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
really big
yeah.
festival, of course, and it'd be great to do that. So, is Reading still happen?
Reading is they don't do that many rock bands anymore. It's all
Uh,
bloody
there's more
indie
alternative
and all that.
bands. Ah,
Yeah,
gotcha. So, yeah, but I think it'd be great to do a bunch of festivals. It would be great to do some stuff in South America.
yeah,
Mike played a bunch of shows in China. It was pretty funny on his own. So, I think that the sky's the limit, and where we can go and perform and play. And I think when we do, it'll be real exciting because
yeah,
again, of the limitation of what could be because of everyone else's schedule. So I think where we play and when we play, it should be something that people should really go to, because you just don't know how often will happen.
yeah,
That's kind of my little selling point there. But yeah, and again, everybody loves performing live,
yeah,
and hearing some of these songs live will probably sound really amazing. We haven't even had a rehearsal yet. The only time we actually got together was when we did the videos collectively.
yeah.
So it'll be fun to get in a rehearsal room and play some songs, and I'm sure they'll sound really heavy.
Um, just quickly going on to that, with the recording, did you do file sharing between yourself and the rest of the band? So them sending their files, you sending your vocals, vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, Mike and Phil made some original demos that sounded really awesome. Mike has his own studio in his house where he
Yeah,
lives with his parents. Not He doesn't live there, but he built a studio in his place where he grew up with his parents in Staten Island. It's really beautiful, and that's where he recorded a lot of stuff. And he would send me things, and then I went to a buddy of mine's house who was just his apartment, and I recorded a lot of the demo vocals, which we actually kept a lot of those, if not all. And then eventually I went back to New York to kind of supplement those parts with various
yeah,
things, and add some vocals, add some harmonies, you name it. So it was really we did it like a lot of bands do sometimes separately. Although Jason and Jack both went to Mike's studio in Staten Island and played there as well. I think Phil did a lot of his parts at his own place. But yeah, even in the end, I think that a lot of stuff was recorded at Mike's place. But you know, we all live in different parts of the country, you know, and
Yeah,
it's you know, you can do that these days with bands, and you know, it's a little different. It's not like, you know, the old days of Armored Saint when we all just drove to rehearsal in the same car and
yeah,
went to this rehearsal studio writing songs, and that was great too. But time doesn't really allow that anymore as much for certain bands. And when you got somebody in San Francisco and Los Angeles and, you know, New York, and you
yeah,
know, this is how bands kind of function. But it's okay as long as at the end of the day it sounds unified. And I
yeah.
think it's okay.
This has been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. It's been a honor. I've been a massive fan um, from the Anthrax days.
Cool.
I'm not going to embarrass myself, but
You can regard yourself.
I was very drunk at the time, so I can't I can't remember if you was the singer at the time when Anthrax played Cardiff. 'Cause I've seen Anthrax so many times.
Yeah, well, I did
I
play Cardiff one time with Anthrax when we played in the it was
the
the huh?
university.
Oh, the university. Okay. What year? Do you remember what year that
Oh
was?
God, I don't even know what the date is today.
I remember playing Cardiff where the castle is too.
Yeah, yeah,
Isn't
yeah. Yeah, it was not far from her.
yeah.
With the
So
castle, yeah,
I mean, I think I played a couple times there, and they're both with Anthrax. I think Robert Saint actually played the Hammerfest. Is that right? The
I think
Hammerfest?
that's up north
But it was
Wales.
in Wales. It was in
Yeah,
Wales. Yeah. So we played that one time, and again, I played you know, a Cardiff with Anthrax, I believe, a couple times. So
yeah,
yeah, it's you know, I love coming to the UK and playing anywhere, and you know, we're coming. Armored Saint's playing a bunch of shows next month, so
yeah,
we're real excited. I love, you know. I mean, look, I don't. This is not me kissing ass, but you know, at the end of the day, that still the greatest bands are from Britain, and it's
yeah.
just the way it is, man.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. And
The
you
funny
know,
thing is, for me, I look at it the other way because I'm a
oh,
massive Kiss fan and all, and I look at it like
really?
Metallica. So it's like, oh, for me, all the greatest bands have come from America. So
Yeah, but they got the well, here's what's funny is, you know, they got their influences from the British bands, you
yeah,
know. And then but the British bands originally got their blues rock influences from the American blues singers,
yeah,
right? So there you go. But you can love it all. How about that?
yeah. Oh, that is that. You know, since I've been doing this, the amount of bands from going and photographing somebody like Louise Redknapp, you've probably never heard of her. Who was like a dance artist, uh, mainstream pop.
Okay.
So from doing that and enjoying that to Behemoth, it's a huge
Yeah. And
catalog.
and that's important. I mean, I love all music. I mean, I
Yeah,
really do. You know, there's some artists I don't like. I won't mention those. You know, I'm not a big fan of modern pop music, but I love old school pop music. And
yeah,
there's some great pop artists that are awesome too. I mean, the band Jellyfish, which was kind of a pop rock band, is one of the coolest bands of all time. You know, so
yeah,
it's just all of it's there to take. You know, and I know, you know, of course we love metal and, you know, but at the end of the day, what I tell people who are up and coming musicians, listen to lots of stuff, you know, have a broad mind, and don't
yeah,
just say, I can only listen to this. I only listen to this. No, no, man, you got to listen to all kinds of music. And as a
yeah,
musician,
definitely.
make you a better player and better writer, and just be more open-minded, you know, so.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer. I bet you got a busy interview schedule.
You're number one. So
so this has been an absolute amazing experience for myself. I really do hope either Category 7 or Armoured Saint come to Wales. That would be absolutely amazing. But if not, the festivals, the main ones.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks for all the support, and we'll see you eventually out there on the road somewhere.
Definitely. Thank you so much for this. It's been such a pleasure.
All right, brother. Thank you very much.
Okay, take care.
Good luck with your podcast. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. See ya.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.